Some CenterPoint users may feel more comfortable using Excel to enter in their budget information rather than the features within CenterPoint. There may also be a situation within an organization where some of the people responsible for entering in budget information don't have access to CenterPoint. In that case, they may also want to use Excel. CenterPoint does allow you to create an Excel spreadsheet to do your budgeting in that can be imported into CenterPoint. However, you need to start that Excel spreadsheet from within CenterPoint's budgeting feature. I'm going to be using CenterPoint for agriculture to demonstrate this, but the steps are going to remain the same if you're using CenterPoint Accounting or CenterPoint Fund. For those of you using CenterPoint Fund, and when I refer to a company, it'll be equal to a fund within your product. And any reference to a profit center is equivalent to a department in CenterPoint Fund. For those of you using either CenterPoint Accounting or CenterPoint Fund, any reference to a production center is equal to a location in your product. In order to get into CenterPoint's budgeting, we'll either go to Reporting Tools and Budgets or to Setup and Budgets. Now, if you have an existing budget that you want to export to an Excel spreadsheet, you can highlight it and click OK to open it. Since I don't have a spreadsheet created yet, I'm going to click New to create a new one. And I'm going to call this my 2025 crop budget. You'll choose the company you want to do the budget for and the date range. And you're not limited to just 1 year, even though I'm putting in that I want to budget for just the year 2025. You can budget for multiple years at one time. In CenterPoint, we do allow you to do budgeting for both balance sheet and income statement accounts. If you're including balance sheet accounts, they need to start out with some sort of beginning value. So I'm choosing December of 2024 for my beginning values. When the CenterPoint loads all the accounts into this budget, it's going to just include the account name and not the account number. So if you're using account numbers and you want a column to display those, you'll say to include the account numbers. And then you get an option as to whether or not you want them ordered by account number or by account name. If you don't choose anything, it'll be ordered by account name. I'm going to choose account number. Now for the budget, when you do send the budget out to Excel and bring it back into CenterPoint, it needs to come in one of two ways. It either needs to come in as journal entry offset to cash or as open entry. If you choose journal entry offset to cash, then each value is going to offset a cash account. So for example, if I put in a $200 utility expense, it'll increase the expense account, but it'll decrease the balance sheet account for the bank. Okay, they're for cash. So that's choosing journal entry offset to cash. If I choose open entry, then that $200 for the utility expense doesn't have any bearing on what activity will occur on any other account. So it's just going to be an open entry. Okay, I'm going to choose journal entry offset to cash, and the bank account that I'm going to have it offset is First National Bank. So I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to let it draw up this budget. Now, I could enter in my budget figures in CenterPoint, or I could enter them in an Excel, or I could do a combination of things. So for example, if I wanted to enter my revenue into CenterPoint, but I wanted to put all of my cost of goods and expenses in an Excel spreadsheet, I can do that. And that's what I'm going to do for mine. I'm not going to do any budgeting for any balance sheet accounts other than for my cash account. I want to see the activity on my cash account so I can monitor cash levels. So I'm going to go ahead and create the Excel spreadsheet that I'm going to use for my cost of goods and my expense accounts. And to do that, I'm going to go to File and Export Import Data and choose Import Data from a first I'm going to choose Prepare an Excel Spreadsheet. And that's going to bring up a wizard that I'm going to drag over to this screen. And I'm going to click Next on the first screen. It's going to ask me what folder I want to put this file in, or this Excel spreadsheet in. And I could choose a different one by clicking on the button at the end, or I could choose the default, which is going to be my Documents folder. I can select an existing spreadsheet, or I can create a new one. I'm going to create a new one, and I'm just going to call this budget 2025. And I'll call it crop because I'm going to just choose a couple profit centers, which are departments for those of you using CenterPoint Fund. I'm just going to choose my crops. Okay, this is a CenterPoint farm that I'm budgeting for, so we're just going to budget for their crop profit centers. Okay, and if I do need to change the format of the file that's going to get created, I can change it from an XLSX file to a prior version of Excel, earlier version file if I wanted. I'm going to click next, and of the date range that I chose within CenterPoint for that budget, do I want to include the entire date range or do I want to include a shorter time period? So I can change that date range if I needed to. I'm going to click next again. Since I'm going to be budgeting by individual accounts, I need to have something unique about those accounts in order to use this budgeting feature. So they either need to have a unique account number, a unique account abbreviation, or a unique account name. And when it's looking for uniqueness, it's not only going to look at your active accounts, but it's also going to look at your inactive accounts. So if it comes back and says that you don't have uniqueness, it might actually be in your inactive accounts. It might have unique account numbers, so I'm going to select that. When budgeting, you can include to budget by different management details, such as different profit centers, different production centers, different projects, production years, and so on. Okay, for those of you using either CenterPoint Accounting or CenterPoint Fund, that could be a different department or a different location. Okay, if I'm choosing those, they also need to have something unique about those. So I want to budget by different profit centers. So my profit centers have a unique name on them. Okay, so anything else that I choose also needs to have something unique about it, and we need to determine what that uniqueness is. Okay, I'm just going to choose profit center for my example here. Then we're going to click next, and it's going to ask us, what do we want to have on each line of the budget? What do we want to see? I obviously want to see what account I'm budgeting for. And since I'm budgeting by profit center, I want to see what profit center, but what other columns of information do I want? The system's going to insert an account type sequence and an account category sequence. I recommend that you keep those because that will allow us to put the information on the spreadsheet in financial statement order. Okay. Then it's going to have my account number for my account. Well, I'd also like to see the account name. So I'm going to move account name over. And then I'd like to see that account name column next to the account number column. So I'm going to use these arrow keys on the right to move it up. I also want to see my account category name. That's going to help me to decide, what account it is that I'm looking at. So I'm going to move that over and also move that up a line. And then I want a column that shows me the profit center name. So those are the columns that I'm selecting for my spreadsheet. Then I'm going to click next, and this is how it's going to order the spreadsheet. It's going to put it in a account type sequence. So if I included balance sheet accounts, it would be assets, liability, equity, and then it would go on to income statement accounts where it would have income, cost of goods, revenue, and then other expenses. Okay, so I'm going to leave those in my sort order. Then it's going to sort it by account number and then by account name. And again, if I want to change the order of any of these, like I wanted to put account name before account number, I could do that by highlighting that and using the up and down arrow keys to change the order. I'm actually going to take account name out of the order because I only want it by account number. And then I'm also going to take account category out of the order. For the profit center, I do want it in an alphabetical order, so I have profit center as a sort after that. I'm going to click next, and this is the screen where I could limit the accounts that I'm going to be including on this spreadsheet. Okay, if I wanted all accounts, I could choose all, or I could filter for specific accounts. So I'm going to filter for specific accounts. Now, when I bring up that list or that filter, if this is already open, that's great. If not, it'll look like this. And if I want to bring up the filter section at the top, I can open it by clicking on the plus sign. Okay, I want to filter for accounts of a specific type, and the type I want is those that are cost of goods. So I'm going to move those over to the right-hand side, but I also want those that are expenses. So I'm going to choose expenses, and I'm also going to move those over to the right. And those are all of the accounts that I want to include in this spreadsheet. Now, do I want to include all profit centers? If I do, I can leave this set at all, or I could pick specific profit centers. I only want my profit centers of corn and soybeans, so I only want my crop profit centers. So I'm going to choose corn, and I'm going to choose soybeans. And I'm going to click OK. Now, one of the things that the system will do automatically is it's going to insert a line for a blank profit center in case I wanted to take and budget for anything that was unallocated. I want all of my data to be allocated to either corn or soybeans, so I'm going to check this box up at the top so that it excludes a line that doesn't have a profit center on it. Okay. Then I'm going to click Next, and it's going to allow me to preview what my spreadsheet looks like. It's going to have one tab on it that's going to have all the specifications, and CenterPoint's going to need this so it knows how to import that data back in. Then it's going to have a second tab that is going to have all of the accounts on it. Now I'm going to just make these columns a little narrower here so that you can see that it has a line for each account. So it's going to actually have two lines for each account. It's going to have that account listed with the profit center of corn. Then it's going to have it listed with the profit center of soybeans. And then it'll have each of the months that I'm doing budgeting for over to the right-hand side. So I can't just put the numbers in here. I actually have to click Finish and then open up the spreadsheet. So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to click Finish, and then we're going to use File Explorer to bring up the spreadsheet. So we'll click Finish and click OK on that, and then bring up File Explorer. So here in File Explorer, I see that budget or that spreadsheet that I had created. So I'm just going to go ahead and open it. And again, you're going to see the tab that has the specifications on it and the tab that has all of the account information on it. I could add additional tabs and do calculations on those tabs. What CenterPoint is going to be importing is the value in each one of the columns on this particular tab. Now, even if it has a formula in it, we're only going to be importing the value. So I'm going to just go down to a line, and I'm going to enter in an example of amounts on that line. So let's say for building insurance, I'm going to enter in that I want a budget for $50 a month for building insurance for corn. And I'm just going to copy that across to all of the months that I'm budgeting for. So we're just going to copy that across to all of those months. And then let's say I'm going to do the same account, and we're going to put in $80 for soybeans, and we're just going to copy that across to those additional months too. Let me go ahead and, let me go ahead and do that. Doing it kind of old school here, but we'll go ahead and copy that in there. Now I can continue to do all of my budgeting, okay, but we don't want to sit here for all of the budgeting. So I'm just going to do this one account. And so I'm going to save this spreadsheet and close it. And then back in CenterPoint, when I want to bring that data back into the CenterPoint budget, I first need to open up the budget, which I already have mine open. And then I need to go to File, Export and Import Data, and import data from the spreadsheet. And that brings up another little wizard. And so I'm going to choose the spreadsheet that I'm importing the data from. Now, if I happen to have data already in my CenterPoint budget, do I want to replace the existing budget data? Since I don't have any data in there, I don't need to worry about that. But if I did, I would want to choose whether or not I want to replace the existing budget data or not. I'm going to click Next, and you'll see here's that entry into insurance buildings. Okay, so I have some for corn and some for soybeans. And then I'm just going to click Import. Now, just a note before I click the import, that it might take a little time for it to import everything. So even though I've only put data on one line, I might have a lot of accounts there. And if I chose a lot of profit centers, I might also have a lot of lines for those profit centers. So it can take a little while for it to evaluate each line and import it into the system. So you'll just want to be patient while it's doing that. So I'm going to click import. When it's done importing, you'll get an import complete message. And then I'm just going to be in my Excel or my CenterPoint budget, and I'm going to go down to that line for that expense so that we can see those values that we entered in and that they got included here. So here's that insurance expense buildings, and there's the $180, which was the combination of the 80 and the 50 that I entered in. And if I highlight one of those cells and I go to edit current cell, you'll see that those numbers are actually in there by profit center. So the amount that I entered on each of the profit center lines got separated out. So if I filter this data later when I'm doing a report by profit center, it'll only show the data for the correct profit center. Now, everything else that I do in this budget is the same as if I were using any other CenterPoint budget. If I save it, I can use it in actual to budget comparisons and so on. So you'll want to review any other videos on information about this budgeting tool.